Hello, my name is Matthew, and apparently today is World Book Day. And Steve Donahue made an original tag, and it got around to Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf, and she tagged me. So there's a series of questions, and I'll just read them and go through them. Question number one: what country do you call home? And I live in and I was born in the United States. I live in Maryland. It's a state on the East Coast. Um, Question number two: how many countries have you visited? And the answer is none. I've never left. I've never left the contiguous United States. I've traveled up and down the East Coast. I've had a few trips to the West Coast, and very little in between. I would love to travel. I've always wanted to. Um, I want to go to Europe and Ireland, Ireland and France, especially, but it's prohibitive. Um, it's expensive. It's hard to get time off of work. Um, Now, especially, I have my two cats that I don't like leaving for hours, let alone days or weeks. I like their company. I like. So it's a conflicted answer. I like being home, and I have dreams of traveling. Um, I don't know how that's going to resolve itself. Question number three: how well is the world represented in your library? And I would say horribly. I have nothing. Um, I have a good representation of um, American literature, English, French, Italian, Greek, um, Russian, German, but I've basically read nothing and know nothing of African literature. All the whole host of countries in Africa, and I know nothing of um, any of their bodies of work. Same thing for the Caribbean. Short of maybe Brazil and Chile, I know nothing of all of the great works that must be a whole history and contemporary um, literature today from South America, and I know nothing. Canada, I know nothing. Um, I've read things from China and Japan, but again, uh, Thailand, the Philippines, there's a whole dozens of countries that I know nothing. The Middle East, basically nothing. All the um, mid-European countries, all the Nordic countries, nothing. I think that I have a broad reading spectrum, um, but in the context of the world, I feel like it would be a gross misrepresentation to say that I'm like a well-read reader in that way. I think that makes sense, but so nothing. Uh, how many works in translation do you own? And there's a parenthetical non-canon, which is kind of problematic for me. A lot that I read um, is older work. I don't keep up with new releases. It's just not in my field of vision at the moment. There's a lot of stuff that I feel like I need to get to. And I went through my books and found that um, I felt like it was fuzzy as far as like what's canon and what's not canon. So I did like a glance. Um, so I'll just read off a list. Thomas Mann, Celine from France, Italo Calvino, Solzhenitsyn, um, Vasily Grossman, Andrei Platonov, Hermann Hesse, Borges, Bolano. Those are the ones I wrote, but I have those. I have a lot from those writers, um, but are they canon? They're it's still the 20th century, so it's tough for me to like figure it out. Like, is the canon like just up to the Victorian age or what? I don't know, but um, if I'm not counting like these kind of writers, I'm sure the number is like in the teens. You know, maybe 15 writers, something like that. But um, there's a whole host of writers that I have from the 20th century, but they're famous. Names that people would know. Let's see. Question number 5. Tell us some weird facts about your country. And I don't know. Something book related that for whatever reason, popped into my mind is just that Oscar Wilde visited America. He came here on a tour. Famously, when he got off the boat and they asked, "Do you have anything to declare?" Oscar Wilde says, "I have nothing to declare but my genius." And one of my favorite stories about him, he's a character and a person that I just am fascinated with and love his work. He's touring around the country and finds himself in like a coal miner's town or something, goes into some dark, gritty bar full of like working class, uneducated Americans, and here struts in Oscar Wilde with his long hair and wearing like a fedora and maybe a long fur coat, looking like a fop. And you can imagine like all these, hard gristled, burly men turning around, lifting their heads up from their beers and whiskey. And there stands Oscar Wilde. And the story goes, he had a harsh reception, being received into this crowd. Not moments later, minutes later, he's under the limelight. He's in the middle of the bar, talking. The most brilliant talker. Winning them over, one by one. Just like dominoes falling. And then he has this warm, receptive crowd of people that are just like hanging on to every word, laughing, engaging, just from this huge personality. And I love that story. I'm not sure if it's apocryphal or not, but it's such a great thing. Like, you will be won over by a great personality. You will be won over by Oscar Wilde. He will win you over. I just love it. It's not really an American fact, but is there a work of literature, or is there a work of world literature on your TBR? And there are. I've I've been pretty consistently reading Horace. Um, so I have odes that I've been reading and satires. I have several books of Livy. Next month, I'm going to be reading Bouvard and Pochet by Flaubert. It's going to be a buddy read. Um, and actually, I've been reading a lot of French anyway. I've been on kind of a long stream of French writing, corrupting my mind. Question number 7. Tag other booktubers not from your country. And just today, this tag came out just today, but I've seen that it's like already been making its rounds, so I'm gonna just name 3 people that might have already been tagged, but Kathy from Grim Reads, Jason from Byways and Bookland, and Alan Morton. So if you're interested in doing this tag, you are tagged, and otherwise leave a comment if you would like, and I hope you're doing well. Take care.